Imagine this. A quiet man in worn-out jeans and a faded army cap steps onto the shooting range with his teenage daughter by his side. No fanfare. No applause. Just a few sideways glances and subtle scoffs from the regulars, especially from one man, the reigning champion, who's been showing off since the minute he walked in. But none of them knew what was coming. And by the time the smoke cleared after the first shot, everything changed. Before we dive into this powerful story of pain, perseverance, and quiet strength, hit that like button if you believe heroes walk among us unnoticed every day, and subscribe for more real, inspiring stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. Now, let me tell you what really happened that unforgettable Saturday afternoon. It had been years since Thomas Granger had fired a weapon outside of duty. A former Army Ranger, he'd seen more than his share of combat. His hands, though steady, bore the tremble of old wounds, physical and emotional. Since leaving the military, life hadn't given him a break. His wife passed away 3 years ago in a car accident, leaving him to raise their daughter, Lily, on his own. He'd traded missions and medals for grocery lists and unpaid bills. They moved to a small town in Arizona where no one knew his name. No parade, no welcome, just another struggling single dad trying to keep it together. Lily had been his anchor, fiercely intelligent, quiet like her dad, but full of questions he didn't always have answers for. Lately, she'd started asking more about who he used to be before life crushed him. One weekend, she found a flyer, local shooting competition, all skill levels welcome. She held it up with a half smile. "You used to shoot, right?" she asked. Thomas looked at the paper and then at her, reading between the lines. She didn't want him to win a trophy. She wanted to see the man she believed he still was. So he signed up. When they arrived at the shooting range, the atmosphere was thick with competition. Regulars were chatting, joking, cleaning their expensive rifles like they were polishing trophies. The reigning champ, Troy "Trigger" Malone, a local gun shop owner with a dozen awards and an ego twice as big, spotted Thomas and gave a smirk that said it all. "Hey buddy, lost. Vet's discount is for the diner down the road," he called out loud enough for everyone to hear. Thomas didn't respond. He just nodded, quietly setting down his old military-issued rifle, an M24 he'd maintained like it was his third arm. People eyed it like a museum piece, not knowing what it had seen. Not knowing what he had survived. The competition began. Contestants lined up, one after the other, their shots echoing through the desert air. Troy, of course, was the loudest, boasting after every round, his buddies cheering him on. When it was Thomas's turn, the mood shifted. Spectators turned away, assuming it would be uneventful. Even the range officer looked skeptical. But Lily stood right behind her father, whispering, "You've got this." Thomas took a deep breath. Not just to steady his aim, but to ground himself. In that moment, he wasn't just a widowed dad or a forgotten veteran. He was the man who had once led a team through enemy lines under fire. He was still him. He looked down the scope, adjusted his position, and fired. Silence. Then, ding. The metal target swayed, a perfect bullseye. The range officer's eyes went wide. He called for a measurement. Then another. Whispers turned into gasps. Thomas had not only hit the mark, he had shattered Troy's long-standing record by a fraction of a millimeter. The silence was broken by Lily's gasp. "Dad, you did it." People turned. Respect replaced ridicule. Even Troy, flustered and red-faced, walked over. Looking at the rifle and then at Thomas. "Where'd you learn to shoot like that?" he asked, voice quieter now. Thomas looked at his daughter, then back at Troy. In places where missing wasn't an option. From that moment on, everything changed. People came up to shake his hand. Not because he broke a record, but because he carried himself with quiet dignity, strength, and humility. Lily beamed beside him. For the first time in years, she wasn't just proud of her father, she was proud with him. In the days that followed, the story spread. Local papers ran a story titled, "Silent Shot, Single Dad Veteran Makes His Mark." But more than headlines, something else happened. The local range started offering free lessons for veterans. Young shooters began asking Thomas for advice. And for the first time since the Army, he found a community again, one that respected what he had done and who he was. He wasn't just a man with a past anymore. He was a father with a future. Lily started shooting too. Not because she wanted to be the best, but because she wanted to spend time with the man who showed her what true strength looked like. Not loud, not flashy, but steady, honest, and real. And for every person watching this video right now who's ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or forgotten, remember this: your first shot doesn't have to be loud to be legendary. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone you know, a parent, a friend, a veteran, even yourself, smash that like button. And if you want to hear more real stories that touch the heart and spark the soul, subscribe to the channel. There's more where this came from.